Hey, welcome to another episode of Let's Learn to Radio. My name is Jeremy Poitras, and thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 5, Community, and coming to you live from Studio B. If you're watching the video feed, welcome. If not, go check us out, youtube.com/Let's Learn to Radio. I really hope I got that URL right. If not, it'll be on the Twitter. Crazy week as always. A lot on the show today. We're going to be talking about FDBK Radio, which is our little brainchild that we've birthed this week, the 4 of us. We're also going to be talking about some group project marks that have been coming in and the general feeling in the group. A little bit of hockey news as well. And we took a little trip this weekend, which we'll tell you about coming up in a little bit here. But first things first, if you have any questions for me, come and go to my Twitter feed, and ask them at me or do me on Facebook. Because I'm really interested in what you guys have to say, and although I've seen the listening numbers kind of tick up, and I've been getting a lot of questions in person, it's really awesome when I get to do stuff online, and I can kind of read them on the show next week. So, not to say I haven't got any online already, because let's be honest, there probably hasn't been any. God, why did I say that? This is live, by the way. We always do the show live, and by we I mean I also do that a lot. But this is a great platform for me to be able to improve my live broadcasting skills, and as you could probably tell by listening, it's not working very well. But enough with bringing myself down. We do have a lot to talk about today. First things first, FDBK Radio. Now, if you haven't seen me post about FDBK Radio, I definitely recommend checking it out because it turned out fantastic. It was a little bit of an idea that the 4 of us put together, myself, Josh, Dakota, and Jane, who are classmates of mine, and we kind of had this idea. We have a really good kind of off-air dynamic, and we kind of want to bring that into a medium that kind of served it a little bit better. So we came up with this show idea called FDBK Radio, and it's essentially where we take news stories from the week and just kind of discuss them and talk about them. And honestly, and I might just be saying this because I find it hilarious, but I find the show actually pretty hilarious, and we tend to have a pretty fun time. I mean, we have a fun time making it. But even going through all the content afterwards and when we're talking about it, when we do this show, we have to mute discussions as much as possible. We just kind of need to give each other the information that we need and not talk about it at all, because even when we're just presenting the stories to each other off air, we tend to get into arguments about stuff, and get some pretty good jokes and everything. And it's great on air stuff, but it's not as organic second time around. So we've been trying to limit our conversation about news stories we're going to talk about to just essential information, so we know kind of what's coming and I can dictate. I actually host the show, and before you jump to conclusions about me being a big self-entitled jerk face, I'm the only one that knows how to really work the board really well. So that's why. And I mean, I'm sure we'll have different people hosting. We'll change it up and that sort of stuff. But I mean, it's the first episode. Give me a break. And having said that, though, it is a pretty great episode. So I definitely recommend you go check it out. It's tons of fun. You can find it on the Twitter, FDBK Radio, on Twitter. We also have a SoundCloud, which is FDBK Radio. And probably in about a week or so, we're going to be having iTunes on as a podcast as well on iTunes. So definitely recommend you guys check that out. But yeah. Great stuff. Couple of things for this week. A lot of marks coming back. Group project marks, advertising. We ended up doing really well on that, 39 out of 40. So we're really stoked on that. So these big projects that we've kind of been slaving over all week are sort of starting to come together, which is, I mean, it's good news for us, but it's a lot of work. And it's nice to get a little bit of, credit for it. And especially at the end, though, the only thing that kind of sucks about it is we don't really have time to celebrate. You get that great mark, it's kind of right on to the next one. So, and I mean, that's how it is in the industry, but, it's not as much of a reach for you guys because you're all unprofessionals and you're trying really hard to do something that looks polished and sounds great and, is the content is fantastic. So when you actually pull something off, you feel really good about it. But yeah, having this episode titled Community is there's a reason. Hockey and a ton of other kind of group bonding activities we started doing are really starting to take shape. We had our first hockey game last week, because today is Monday and we had it last Monday, so it would have been right after I recorded last week's episode. But that was fantastic. We actually even have a couple girls on the team, one of which took down another dude on the other team, like just full on. I don't think I've ever seen somebody hit the floor harder. Which was fantastic. But that was a great adventure. And then we actually have a hockey game coming up in about an hour after I finish this. So that's that's my evening. Hopefully I'll get home before 10 o'clock. Probably not. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, the real feeling around the group right now is that that we're all kind of coming together. We're starting to get to know each other a little bit more, and our social circles are starting to be put together. So it's really interesting to watch the development just from like a people watching standpoint, but also to be a part of a community that's growing and moving in a direction. Even things like a music committee on Wednesday where we sit down as a radio station and we go through songs we want to play, getting involved with some of the second year stuff. Like that's really interesting to do. And actually I even have it, I've heard a couple of the second year radio program students have listened to the podcast before. So hey guys, but it's great to get feedback from everybody, and they're usually the ones that give the some of the really good feedback, having gone through this whole first year. But huge help. But yeah, we also took a trip this weekend, which was super exciting. A couple of us banded together and ran up to somebody's cabin in Cultus Lake. Josh Duncan, who I may have mentioned before on the show, but one of the guys in that kind of immediate friend group, and we went up to Cultus Lake this weekend, which was an amazing retreat from just the hustle and bustle of every week and weekend and that sort of stuff. And it's kind of just like school, work, and then kind of trying to cram a little bit of social into the mix every now and again. But this was fantastic because we were actually able to go somewhere, sit down and have just a really nice weekend and enjoy each other's company, and brought a bunch of beer up there and just had a heck of a time. And we even ended up getting some homework done, but just a great way to be able to go somewhere and relax for a little bit, especially when you've kind of been consistently going for a while. It's nice to be able to kind of pull back and pull away and do your own thing. And the best and worst thing about that cabin is that there's no Wi-Fi up there. So for me, that's usually a torturous thing, but it's nice because it forces me to kind of back away a little bit and actually relax. So, I mean, great little experience, and we're already planning to do a second trip later on in October. So a great amount of refreshment for us, and definitely a huge relief. But yeah, the other thing is right now is personally, because the show's about me being self-centered and all, personally it's been a little bit of a challenge this week, trying to balance home life a little bit, and not anything bad, but if I haven't mentioned this already, my grandfather, who I live with, he's on a trip of a lifetime across Europe with his brother and his brother's wife, and just kind of going around and seeing Italy and all these other places, which is fantastic. But it leaves me at home in charge of the house. So between things like figuring out the furnace and like keeping this relatively larger house kind of maintained, it's really hard to find time to mow the lawn. Because I usually don't get home from school until about 6-7 o'clock on days that I'm not working. Days I'm working, I get home at around 10 or 11. So it's really tricky for me to mow the lawn at 11 o'clock at night. As you can imagine, mowing the lawn in the dark does not make it look good. And then usually weekends, it's projects and work all day and that sort of stuff. So I'm home very little during the daylight hours. I leave my house at 6 in the morning, and I don't usually get home till about 7 or 8 o'clock. So it's really tricky to try to find time to maintain stuff, but slowly it's kind of been coming into view a little bit, even getting a couple spurts of help from the neighbors, and just kind of, oh, can you grab the trash bins for me? Hey, can you mind mowing the lawn? Pay the neighborhood kid $10 to do it. So, it's hard, but it's all about finding that balance. And I think more and more I'm starting to be able to adapt with those kind of tiny blows that are being dealt, which is good. Tough skin makes for, I don't know. There's got to be a cliche in there somewhere. Anyway, about time for me to wrap it up, as I try to keep it to 10 minutes. That way I'm not taking up too much of your beautiful time. But thanks so much for tuning in. Next week on episode 6, we'll be recapping kind of this week in the radio world and what we'll be doing. Take a look out for FDBK Radio as well. We'll be recording our second episode tomorrow and be posting that hopefully either Wednesday or Thursday. So definitely go in and check that out. It's hilarious. It's a riot. We have a ton of fun making it. But yeah, check me out on Twitter, JermsP, and on the Tumblr as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao.